In 1953, young Clarita Villanueva was arrested for vagrancy on the streets of Manila. She was only 17 years old, with black eyes and a silence that screamed. The officers said she looked drugged. She spoke to herself, laughed, and cried within seconds. But Clarita took nothing. She only begged one thing: "Don't leave me alone at night." On the second night in the cell, the screaming began. Guards reported hearing biting sounds, like bones snapping. When they rushed to her cell, they found Clarita on the floor, convulsing, with bite marks in places she could never reach herself: her back, her neck, behind her legs. Doctors claimed it was hysteria, but the nurse who administered fluids said she felt a presence beside the bed, as if someone was breathing cold into her neck. Clarita, eyes fixed on the ceiling, whispered, "He came from the shadows, and now he lives inside me." On the third night, Clarita was tied to the bed, not because she was violent, but because of fear. She screamed at exact hours, like obeying an invisible clock. At 3:17 a.m., the entire hospital was shaken by a horrifying noise, like flesh being torn from inside the wall. Clarita awoke with wide eyes. She tried to speak, but her voice failed. Instead, something else spoke through her, a deep, male, guttural voice, as if it came from a hole in the earth. "She let me in." The doctor dropped his tools in shock. The lights flickered. Then the nurse screamed. On the wall beside the bed, deep claw marks appeared by themselves, as if something was trying to come through from the other side. Clarita began to laugh, but it wasn't a girl's laugh. It was old, filthy, full of hate. The priest sent for the exorcism arrived too late. Clarita no longer blinked, and the temperature in the room had dropped to 3 degrees Celsius. The next morning, Clarita was curled up in fetal position, eyes open but empty. Father Reyes, an experienced man, entered with a Bible in one hand and faith in his heart. He prayed in Latin, but with each word Clarita smiled wider, as if feeding the thing inside her. Suddenly she spat blood and murmured, "He hates Latin, but he loves your faith." The Bible burst into flames in the priest's hands. A freezing wind swept through the room, even though no windows were open. The curtains moved against the draft. A student nurse fainted when he saw that Clarita's shadow was double. As everyone ran, Clarita rose on her own from the bed, still restrained. The straps came undone, as if by invisible hands. She pointed to the ceiling, laughing, and said, "Look, he's learning to walk on the walls." And for a moment, everyone heard footsteps on the ceiling, like something walking upside down. The hospital decided to isolate Clarita in the old room 11, locked with bars and a double padlock. No one went near, except Father Reyes, who insisted there was still a soul to save. That night, he placed a silver crucifix on her chest. At exactly 3:17, the screams returned, but they no longer came from her. The crucifix melted like wax. The ceiling turned black. The priest looked up, and what he saw was recorded once in his diary. Something crawled across the ceiling, made of stitched shadows, with eyes inside the seams, and it spoke with hunger. Clarita floated above the bed, her eyes fully white. From her mouth, a dark smoke rose in spirals toward the ceiling. The priest tried to pray, but his voice was gone. Clarita turned toward him, smiling. "Now he wants you." The security cameras failed, but one audio was recorded, a laugh, mixed with multiple voices crying at once. The next morning, room 11 was locked from the inside. No sign of Clarita. Only Father Reyes, kneeling on the floor, eyes wide open and completely black, as if something had burned his soul from within. He repeated the same phrase again and again, "She is the door, she is the door." When they finally broke in, they found Clarita standing in the corner facing the wall. On the floor, ancient symbols scratched with her fingernails. The wall was breathing. Clarita turned slowly. Now she had a mouth where there was none before. far too wide, stitched shut with black pulsing thread. She smiled and whispered, "He's out." That night, in 3 different hospitals, patients reported hearing laughter in the hallways, followed by invisible bites. And in each place, someone murmured the same name, Clarita. Since then, room 11 was never reopened. And every night at 3:17 a.m., the whisper returns.